Welcome to the Living Joyfully podcast, where we talk about the intricacies of being in relationship with the people in our lives. Let's dig deep, challenge paradigms, choose connection, and live joyfully.
Hi, I'm Anna Brown.
And I'm Pam Laricchia.
And welcome to the Living Joyfully podcast, episode 0. Episode 0 gives us a chance to share a quick introduction to the podcast and tell you a bit about who we are before we dive into all the things we want to talk about. And there are a lot of things. We already have topics in mind for a year's worth of episodes. So first, what can you expect from the podcast? We want to talk about the many different aspects of being in relationship with the people in our lives. Having strong, connected relationships makes everything about being human more interesting and enjoyable. Navigating relationships is rooted in things like connection, agency, compassion, understanding, consent, all of which are wonderful ideas, but we want to talk about what that looks like in real life, what those ideas mean in practice, in our relationships with our partner, our extended family, our friends, our kids, ourselves. Being in relationship with others also asks us to better understand ourselves, so we'll be diving into what that looks like as well. It's such rich terrain to explore as we shed the bits from our past that don't serve us and focus on being the person we want to be right now. And we want to do all of that in bite-sized bits that easily fit into the flow of your days. So we'll be keeping the length of each episode focused and manageable. We'll be releasing new episodes weekly and give you some questions to reflect upon that are related to the topic. There will be lots of fodder for conversation and growth, and we look to add episodes where we dive into questions and specific situations that bubble up for listeners as well. There will be companion PDFs available to download so you can spend time with the questions, and transcripts available if you're like me and like to see actual words. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player so you won't miss an episode. And now for just some quick introductions. As I mentioned, I'm Anna. David and I have been together for 36 years, married for 30. We have 2 grown daughters who gratefully still enjoy coming back to hang out with us. I worked for several years with families in crisis before turning my attention to helping parents build better relationships with their children and partners. I've been doing that very satisfying work for over 20 years. Currently, I work in a private practice helping couples and family move through conflicts and create environments of collaboration and growth. I don't believe that relationships have to be hard. I think they enhance our joy as we move through this life. I look forward to talking about all the tools and exploring all the ways that we can live joyfully together.
Yes. And I'm Pam. My partner and I have been married for 32 years and have 3 grown children. I have long been fascinated by how human beings tick and what it means to be in relationship with the people in my life. Over the last 15 years or so, I've helped many people cultivate strong, connected, and trusting relationships with their children and partner while navigating the day-to-day challenges and conflicts of life. I am really excited to share these ideas more widely through the podcast. And lastly, we wanted to touch on the name of the podcast, Why Living Joyfully? Now, we'll dive into this more deeply in a future episode, and I think it will become more and more apparent over time just through our conversations. But in a nutshell, we have found joy to be a meaningful compass for navigating life and relationships. And by joy, we don't mean the surface level happiness of things always going our way. I mean, that's cool and all, but life doesn't always go our way. There are ups and downs. Sometimes things go sideways or even deeply awry. There are tragedies alongside the triumphs, and there are large swaths of everyday life. Joy can be a valuable beacon in the midst of all those moments and seasons. So that's a quick intro to the podcast and to us. We are excited to dive into all the things. And as Anna mentioned, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. And we look forward to sharing our first official episode with you next week. Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate you being here with us as we explore ways to improve our relationships and understand ourselves better. You can find us on Instagram at Living Joyfully Podcast, and join us next week as we dig deep, challenge paradigms, choose connection, and live joyfully.